Okay, so in this one, I kind of want to talk about basically combining our stuff together. I mean, you're going to create a lot of objects of one object that needs to be kind of either grouped or combined to the others, and it's kind of up to you to really decide what the hell those objects are. There are, if you look at your outliner here, you can select all of these things. You can go to Group, Control G. Now, if you notice over here in the outliner, there's a drop down menu and it's just kind of like in layers. So basically, if you were to select the group, you could kind of control the group that way. And you could actually control separate that way. Groups are good, but I don't really want to have all these things in a group because, especially just simply as this, grouping I found to be more resourceful, like whenever you're rigging up characters and you're having different groups of things like bones, joints, separate to geometry. But there's obviously a call for it. But simplistic versions say if I wanted to drop this item in a scene and just have the top come off, but I wanted everything to be able to follow it if I moved it, there's easier ways of doing that. So we're going to ungroup. There is the option of combining. If I wanted to combine these objects together to where I could actually manipulate the two together, say if you modify and move this out of the way, say you wanted to weld these faces together, these vertexes together, you can't really do that because these objects are two separate objects. You can basically select one object, select another object, go to Mesh Combine, and we'll talk about this when we start putting our objects together to manipulate them. Now these objects are the same thing, so now basically if you wanted to kind of weld these two targets together, these pieces together, like these two objects together, you can. Obviously you'd have to delete a few faces here. Say if you deleted that face and deleted that face and you wanted to go to your vertex and make these two objects the same, you could select these two vertexes here. And over here shift right click, you got merge vertex as the center. Now that it becomes one, it's one vertex. That's a little intense for this, what we're trying to do. So we'll wait on that one because I don't really need to combine them together. I mean, if they're all going to be, combining that together would be obviously good if I was going to put different images, different textures on. Maybe use a different image map for this actual thing, but this is all going to be one separate, one same texture running across, and I want it to kind of look like that, where it's kind of welded together, but not really. You can still see the seams and everything, which if you smoothed everything over, it would kind of look like that. I'm going to select it all and press 3. Kind of what I'm looking for right there. So we're going to talk about parent-child hierarchy, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's like parents follow the child, or the child follows the parents, sorry. You want to connect these things in a way that whenever you just go to reach to grab this thing, everything's going to follow it, in other words. So to demonstrate that, say if you had these different blocks here, and you wanted to make this the parent, kind of like ducks follow their mother, you could just select this one, select that one, that's the parent. Now select that one and select these two, hit P, and that's the parent. Oh, sorry. Hit that one, and that's the parent. So now all of these will follow this thing here, but you can also move these separately. I want this one to be parented to this one right here. And if you look over here in your outliner now, instead of having all part of one group, it's all part of a chain of events, in other words. So P1 will follow P2, but P2 will also follow, or I'm sorry, let me move these around. Let me just redo that because I don't like the naming conventions on that one. So Q1 control duplicate, cube 2, control duplicate, cube 3. I want cube 3 to follow cube 2, so shift press P. Now I want 2 to follow 1, so shift press P. So now cube 1 is in charge. They both follow. 2 can do its own thing, and while it still has number 3 following, and 3 is offset to do whatever they want to. So with this item right here, this is going to be my main thing right here. I want everything to follow this bowl because, yeah, you know, obviously the handles are going to follow it. So what I'm going to do is select this piece of geometry, then select the bowl and just hit P. Let me name these things. This is the handle. This is the actual bowl. This is the spout. Not south, but spout. And this is the cap, or the top. So I'm going to select the handle, select the bowl, and press P. And if you look at my outliner, see how it's breaking it down. I'm going to select the spout, select the bowl, press P. So now those things follow those. And I'm going to select the top to the bowl, and I'm going to press P. So now everything moves, everything follows everything, and the good thing about these things not being combined or grouped is I can move separately. So say if I had a character and I wanted to lift the lid and kind of animate the lid coming off, you can separately move it without moving anything else. And then if you wanted to move the entire thing like that, it's going to move it like that. So if you wanted to unchain these things, shift P. It was P to do it, then shift P to ungroup them. See the way my top came out from mousing that, so now it's not grouped there. But I want it in there, so I'm going to undo it. So whenever you get to creating your objects and doing your stuff, if you've got a lampshade, you're obviously going to want the lampshade to follow the shaft that holds the light bulb in. You'll need to kind of either parent-child it to the others or group it together, whichever's easiest. Like I said, the reason why I didn't do groups on this is because I wanted to be able to move the lids separately, which you could actually still do, but I just have more luck with the parent-child hierarchy than grouping sometimes because I know things are directly related to it, and grouping creates its own object. In other words, like if you were to select the group, then your pivot point would be in a different place, and right now we're working off this pivot point just on this bowl. So if I was to shift P, shift P, I was to group this stuff, your pivot point is usually off. In other words, that's why, which you can go in and you can adjust it, but for first timers it's a little confusing because now you have to kind of go move your pivot point. But if you stick with the parent child, you're always going to be using the pivot point of your original object. So okay, yeah, so that's kind of a breakdown of parent-child hierarchy, grouping, and combining. And next time we'll talk about basically combining objects so we can start welding vertexes together and stuff like that.